Committee on the Taxation Budget Measures Bill is resumed. Members, when we last considered this bill, debate on clauses 1 and 2 was in progress. Stuart Nash has the call and has 4 minutes remaining if he so wishes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually will continue my call on this because I was looking at the title over the break and, this really isn't a true... The title we've got at the moment isn't really a true reflection. It's called the Taxation Budget Measures Bill. What it should probably be called is Tax Cuts for the Extremely Wealthy Bill. Because if you earn really big money, you're going to get a really big tax cut on this. Paul Reynolds, he's been dragged, his name's been dragged out of every debate, but there's a good reason for that, because he's one of our highest earning people. He's going to do incredibly well out of this bill, Mr. Chairman. He's going to get around about $1,600 a week or $88,000 a year in the hand. So he's absolutely rapt about this. But for the worker on the medium wage, the tax cut's around about $5 a week, or $260 a year. $88,000 versus $260. Now that's not really that equitable, is it? I don't think that's equitable at all, in fact, and I think the vast majority of New Zealanders out there will be looking at this, not enviously, because New Zealanders aren't an envious sort of people, but they'll be looking at this and going, that's not really fair. Well, but we could call it the Don't Be Envious tax bill. Because the Prime Minister, don't be jealous tax bill, because the Prime Minister signalled very early on, before we knew what was going to be in this bill at all, that there were going to be Kiwis who he thought would be jealous about this bill. What message does that send? We didn't even know what the tax package was going to be, and yet the Prime Minister said, thank you, Barry, the Prime Minister said, Kiwis, don't be jealous. So immediately everyone knew that this was a bill where the top players, where the very, very wealthy were going to get a substantial amount of money, like Paul Reynolds, $1,600 a week, and the person on the median wage was going to get $5 a week. Now, like I said, Kiwis aren't envious by nature. $5 a week. Kiwis aren't envious by nature. We're not jealous by nature. In fact, we don't actually ask for very much at all. But what we do ask for, you're dead right, Mr. Shearer, what we do ask for is a fair deal. And we kind of know when we're being ripped off, when we're being rorted, and we don't like that. We just don't like that. So when we hear about someone like Paul Reynolds getting $1,600 or John Key getting $350 a week, and you're on the medium wage and you get $5 a week, it doesn't feel right. It actually feels as if you've been ripped off a little bit. And like I say, it's just not fair. How about the budget of broken promises, or the bill of broken promises? John Key looked at the camera and said, I will not raise GST. I will not raise GST. He also said, I would not borrow for tax cuts. Well, Mr. Chair. Actually, in fact, every member on that side of the House went to the electorate and said, we will not raise GST and we would not borrow for tax cuts. Well, Mr. Chair, this is a bill that allows the government to borrow $1.1 billion over 4 years for tax cuts. $1.1 billion a year for tax cuts. And in this bill, Mr. Chair, there is provision for increasing GST. This bill increases GST for every single New Zealander. It increases it for Paul Reynolds, but he doesn't care, because he's got about $1,600 a week. But for the average person on the median wage, they're going to get $5. This is the bill of broken promises. How about the inflation upwards and onwards bill? Because as the government has said in the budget, this bill, the cause of this bill, inflation will rise about 5.9%. That will eradicate the real value of the savings of many, many Kiwis. Now, there's a bit of a misconception over here, because the bill of broken promises and the inflation, Mr. Speaker, this is not a great bill at all.
I call